what clients tend to look at are always the big numbers. Oh, well, this thing, it says it'll pull, 7,000 pounds. The trailer only weighs 4. My horses weigh 2, so I'm only hauling 6. It'll pull 7. I'm good, right? Life is great. But it's always that payload and the smaller numbers and the fine print that these vehicle manufacturers don't like to talk about, and they don't like to advertise, and they really try to make it confusing and troublesome to try to figure out what it will actually haul. So, reach out to someone that knows what they're talking about in towing. And we always say, spec out your trailer needs first before going to purchase a vehicle.
You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Welcome to The Ride, a podcast brought to you by Horse and Rider Magazine, hosted by Nicole Cherico and Emily Carey.
This episode is brought to you by My New Horse. For first-time horse owners and new riders just starting out, finding the information and support you need can be challenging. That's why Equine Network has partnered with Sentinel Feed to bring you My New Horse, a place where equestrians just getting into horse ownership or riding will find the resources and community they need at precisely their stage of the equine journey. From important horsekeeping information and how-to videos to social media communities and more, My New Horse is your one-stop shop for all riders of all levels and disciplines who are eager to find easy-to-understand horse care information and guidance. Start your horse ownership journey today. Visit mynewhorse.com. Welcome back to The Ride. I'm your host, Emily Carey, and I'm joined today by none other than trailer safety expert Brad Heath. Brad is the author of The Honest-to-Goodness Truth About Horse Trailers, a comprehensive guide he wrote about safety and maintaining horse trailers, as well as a guide to purchasing trailers and what you need to know as you take that next step in horse ownership. He also founded Double D Trailers out of Wilmington, North Carolina, and invented the SafeTack Reverse, a patented trailer design that lets horses load from the side and unload forward or backward through a wide open exit, eliminating tight spaces, awkward backing, and common safety risks for both horses and handlers. Throughout Brad's time in the trailer industry, safety has been at the forefront of his mind, and I'm so excited to talk to him today to break down the importance of trailer safety and things that we should all be thinking about whenever we're hauling horses. Brad, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show, Emily, and for saying all those really nice things about me. That makes me sound good. I'm not all that, but I do appreciate the opportunity. We'll do our best for you.
Yeah, so to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into trailers?
Yeah, so we started a farm equipment business actually back in 1994, so a few days ago now. I was 20 years old, my dad and myself, and one of the products that we started selling over the years, I think in 95 or 6, was horse trailers. And at that time, everything was built out west. If I had a red trailer, a customer wanted a blue one. If it was blue, they wanted it red. So we were always dealing with that. And at some point, we got the brainiac idea of, hey, we think we can just build these things ourselves. And so we started horse trailer manufacturing in December of 1997. And I've been doing that ever since now. So it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, so you've seen a lot of trailers, a lot of different trends over the years. What is the biggest safety issue that you see when people are driving trucks and trailers down the road?
Gosh, I live in Wilmington, North Carolina, and the biggest safety issue we have here is people just can't drive, period. That's the problem we have, much less when you put a trailer behind them. Growing up, we're out in the country, we're on the farm, so it's pretty common for that mindset to be accustomed to towing trailers. It was not a big deal. But with the market today, a lot of folks, they don't have that background, professional, affluent folks that have to board their horses and perhaps have never even pulled a trailer before. So a couple things that jump out. One would be just lack of experience. and how do you get experience without actually doing it? So it's kind of the catch-20 there. Sort of like when you get ready to get credit at a bank, they say, well, you don't have any credit. And you're like, well, that's why I'm here to borrow money, right? The other thing that we see is just folks trying to tow trailers with vehicles that are not adequately equipped to carry the load. That's probably the biggest challenge that we face, at least on our end, is in trying to educate folks on towing, what's safe and what's not.
Yeah, so for those people who are new, who didn't basically grow up behind the wheel of a truck, what are some advice that you would give to them about gaining confidence and learning more about hauling?
Yeah, a good thing to do, I think, and I've actually considered starting a truck driving school. I thought that would be a great idea to fly folks out and just teach them some things. But ride with someone who does have experience, whether it's a commercial person that drives 18-wheelers for a living, or if it's just your barn friend or your neighbor that has been pulling trailers for a few years. Hop in the vehicle, ride around. They'll give you some pointers on what they learned and what to do and what not to do. So I think that would be probably the best way to ease into that. Just get with somebody that's done it before.
Yeah, and so those people, as they're learning to drive trucks and trailers and they're looking to purchase their first trailer, what are some things that they should look at through the purchasing process, especially if they're looking at maybe an older used trailer?
Yeah, the used ones in particular, we don't deal in used trailers, but over the years we've certainly had a lot of experience with those. I'll give you an example. I traded for one time when we used to trade for used trailers. I traded for one from a client out of Georgia, sight unseen, other than the picture. She ordered a new trailer. We built it, hauled it to Georgia, picked up the used one, brought it back, and started cleaning it up to put it on our website and try to sell it. And I went inside with my video camera and I'm looking around and I pulled the mats back and I could see the ground through the floor, right? The trailer was 8 years old. It was an aluminum trailer. It was a Featherlight. I never bashed brands, and it's nothing against Featherlight, but it was a lack of maintenance is what caused it. It was nothing the manufacturer did. And it was obvious that this client, she just hadn't pulled the mats back and hosed the thing out, because horse urine and aluminum, they don't play very nice together. The urine can actually oxidize the urea from that if it's not taken off. So just, pay attention to the trailer. I would take it to an inspection shop, have the repair guys to go through it and make sure that the floor is solid, have the wheels and the bearings repacked, or at least find out the history of when that was done last time. Check the wiring on older trailers, the lights and things, they just corrode over time. But as far as safety, the main thing you want to look for is just structural. You just want to make sure that it's a structurally sound trailer. The next thing, if you're looking at a new trailer or even a used trailer, probably layout would be my recommendation, because there's a lot of good builders in the US that can make really nice and safe horse trailers, but they don't necessarily do safe layouts. And so that's something that we're really big on. That's some things that we try to teach in the book that we recently launched, and all of our designs is, hey, here's the benefit to the horse, here's the benefit to the rider, here's what you should look for and why, and here's what you should avoid and why.
Yeah, and you mentioned a little earlier about people not having enough truck. You can't haul a huge horse trailer with a little car. So can you talk to us a little bit about the importance of having enough truck to haul a trailer? Having a truck that will match and can handle the load and the weight requirements.
Yeah, so I just had this conversation with one of our content writers. She's been with us for many years, and she won't mind me sharing this, but she's pregnant now, and she said, I should really know this information as much as I've written about it, but I have pregnancy brain, so I need for you to refresh my memory. And I sort of chuckled with her a little bit. And they were looking at purchasing a Honda Pilot. They have a new baby coming. They need more space. And she said, I don't have horses right now, but I plan to get some horses in the future. And I'd like to be able to tow that with this Honda vehicle. And when you look at that, I mean, Honda's a very small SUV compared to like a Chevy Tahoe or Suburban. Those are much larger. And when we pulled back the details behind the towing capacity, it's really just not adequately rated to carry the weight necessary for hauling a live load. It just wasn't there. And what clients tend to look at are always the big numbers. Oh, well, this thing, it says it'll pull, 7,000 pounds. The trailer only weighs 4. My horses weigh 2, so I'm only hauling 6. It'll pull 7. I'm good, right? Life is great. But it's always that payload and the smaller numbers and the fine print that these vehicle manufacturers don't like to talk about, and they don't like to advertise, and they really try to make it confusing and troublesome to try to figure out what it will actually haul. So, reach out to someone that knows what they're talking about in towing. And we always say, spec out your trailer needs first before going to purchase a vehicle. Because I can't tell you, in almost 30 years of doing this now, how many folks come to us and say, oh, I just bought a brand new whatever, and I'm looking to get a 3-horse that does this and does that. And the first thing I'm thinking, I'm just shaking my head and saying, yeah, that new whatever that you just bought, it's not going to do it. It's just not going to do it. And the purpose of a tow vehicle is to tow, to pull things. That's what you're buying it for. So you want to make sure that you get the right vehicle. And how are you going to know what vehicle to buy if you haven't even spec'd out what you're towing? So that's really important. We help a lot of folks purchase vehicles. We help a lot of folks purchase other horse trailers that don't buy from us, but they use us as that resource. So we're certainly happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that's some really good advice. I mean, even if your vehicle can tow, a little 2-horse bumper pull, that does not mean it's going to be able to tow a big 4, 5, 6-horse trailer. And then, of course, there's the age-old aluminum versus steel, which that's a huge weight difference, and knowing how to handle those loads too.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And so obviously, aluminum versus steel, trailer design has changed a lot over the years. As you know, you've built trailers. They're constantly adapting and changing, and especially to have more safety features in mind. Can you walk us through some of the latest safety features that are out there on the market that people should keep an eye out on?
Horse trailers in general, in my opinion, well, first of all, it's a very fragmented market, but it's also a market where, for whatever reason, there has not been a tremendous amount of innovation done over the years. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, the primary material for building horse trailers was steel sheet metal, steel posts, steel tubings. The primers and paints and things like that were not nearly what we have today. And so what would happen, someone would purchase this trailer, and in a few years, the metal sheet metal had rusted out on it because it just wasn't there. And that's when aluminum came along. There was a lot of difference in cost at the time. And just from that cost difference, it's so much more expensive, so it must be better, right? It costs more, so it's better. In our mindset, we think that. And I don't know, ever who made the first slant load with the rear tack compartment that's in the way, for whatever reason, ever since that date back in 1980, almost everybody and their brother has copied that same design and are still building them that way today. And so I look at some of these designs and I say, look, guys, we're in the year 2025 now, and we should be doing a better job in our industry of making these layouts safer for horse and safer for handler. We've had a lot of success. One of the things that has sort of caught on in the last 10 years are reverse loads. And reverse loads have been around for a long time. I didn't invent the reverse load, but we did darn near perfect it, so to speak. There were a lot of safety issues littered with a lot of the products that were on the market. And so we sort of took a look at that and said, hey, we think we can clean this up, do a better job for the horse and handler. And that's what we did. And that's what we had the patent on. But that's very popular with the reverse load. Just so many clients that have had difficult haulers and difficult loaders to come to us and say, hey, I bought this trailer and now, my horse is just performing so much better. We've got video after video that does that.
Yeah, for sure. For someone who may be listening who is possibly thinking about buying their first horse trailer, may not have much experience with looking at horse trailers or thinking what's the best kind of horse trailer for them, can you kind of break out the difference between a bumper pull, a gooseneck, a stock trailer, living quarters trailer, just all the different types of trailers that there are in the market and like what people may use them for?
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of choices. Like we said earlier, it's a very fragmented market and a lot of manufacturers and dealers, mine's the best, is, all of that. And we don't necessarily get into that. And this is not a plug for us, but I would highly recommend to grab our book. We send them to you for free. Shoot us an email. It's not something we're trying to sell, and we'll be happy to provide that resource. And you will learn a tremendous amount from that. We sort of peel back the layers and break it down by sections as to what to look for, from material to flooring to walls to roof to layouts. So there's a lot of information in there. But the first step in purchasing a new trailer is to identify what your needs are. And that's something that I think my team is good at. We actually custom build to order. There's a lot of other manufacturers that do that as well, and they do a good job at it. For example, if you come to us and you say, hey, I'm looking to haul 2 horses. I have a full-size SUV. My horses are warm blood. I go to shows. I'm not necessarily spending the night. I'm not camping, sleeping, any of that. Maybe I'll throw a mattress or a cot in at a show and take a nap. So you might need a small dressing room or front tack storage area on the front. And in that case, for hauling 2 horses or less, that 2-horse bumper pull would be our recommendation for it. And if you told us that same information, but you said, look, I really need to sleep in this thing, I'm going to spend a night or two. I'm fine with rough camping. I don't need living quarters, but I want a place to lay my head down. Then we're going to say, hey, let's move up to the gooseneck, because it really makes sense to do that. And then once we get into the 3-horse and higher versions, not to say, because we do build a decent amount of 3-horse bumper pulls as long as it's a really large tow vehicle that's capable of handling that. But ideally, anything in a 3-horse or greater, we should really just jump up to a gooseneck there. The weight distribution, the way that it's affixed to the tow vehicle with the ball in the bed of the truck, it's just easier to handle and distributes more safely across the tow vehicle. And then lastly, if you say, hey, we're going on long trips, we're whole weekends, I don't want to rough camp, I want to sleep, I want to take a shower, I want a toilet, I want to cook when I wake up and have my coffee. And then, in those cases, we'll begin to talk about living quarters and the amenities of that and what works and what doesn't. But everything that we do on our end is horse focused first. It's always horse area first. We have a lot of clients that come to us and they're so focused on the human aspect. Well, what color cabinets can I do? And what kind of countertops can I do? And all that cosmetic stuff. Any manufacturer can build a nice looking wood interior. So there's not a lot of rocket science in that. So we do look at that horse area and try to spec out those needs first and what's going to work long term. You also need to think about, just like I said, the long term. Are you always going to have 2 horses? Will you get 3 or 4 at some point in the future? Will you always have a 15-2 Tennessee Walker, or are you going to get a 17-2 warm blood at some point? And just like clothing, not all horses will fit in the same size stall, right? We actually custom build to fit specific size horses. One of the biggest myths that we hear is, my warm blood won't fit in this slant load because they can't lower their head. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with your warm blood in a slant load. It's the simple fact that the manufacturer didn't build the trailer large enough for your horse to fit. If you make it big enough, it works just fine. So yeah, a lot of factors to consider.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a huge difference in trailer need if you're hauling a warm blood, versus if you're out on a ranch in Texas. You're going to need completely different trailers, completely different truck setup. Everything's completely different. It's just a matter of finding out what you're looking for.
Sure.
So once someone has their trailers, what are some of the yearly maintenance tips you recommend? Like, how often should a trailer be brought into a shop to have a once over?
Our go-to recommendation is annually. Just get that annual inspection. If it's a living quarter trailer, I would recommend working with an RV facility, because horse trailer interiors and RV interiors, they're 100% identical. It's the same regulatory body that puts together the rules on what makes a trailer a safe interior. And so an RV company is going to be well versed in looking at the rubber gasket on the roof of the trailer at the air conditioner to make sure that it's not dry rotted and then water starts pouring in. Those are things that an average person is not going to look at. The only time you're going to pay attention to it is when you're in there sleeping and all of a sudden you see water running through your roof, and then you've got a big problem and mold and stain. So if it's a living quarter, I'd go to a qualified RV company, and I'd have them go through that with a fine-tooth comb just to do that. If it's a non-living quarter trailer, certainly any trailer repair shop that's worth their salt would be able to do a good job for you. And it's mainly at that point tires, wheels, bearings, axles. Look for broken welds, structural issues, corrosion that may be occurring that needs some attention, latches that need to be sprayed with WD-40, and keyholes and windows that freeze up, things of that nature, and the wiring and the light. So every year, I think it's a good habit to do that, particularly as the trailer ages. And depending on who the manufacturer of the trailer is, oftentimes the roofs are, they have some type of seal on top of them. And over time, the sunlight deteriorates the sealants. And so then you can have roof issues. So just need to stay on top of it before a problem occurs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's super important to be able to constantly check on it. How often would you say someone should lift up those mats? You mentioned earlier about the big hole underneath the mats. How often should someone be thinking about that and checking on that? If for a trailer that's used regularly?
Yeah, it's a great question. I started doing wood floors back in 1997, and we still offer a wood floor today, although 95+% of what we build is a material called rumber. It's like lumber with an R. And we don't make it. It's made from recycled tires by a company out of Texas, rumber.com. Anybody can buy from them. So it's not proprietary. And if it's that type of flooring, no mat is required because it's rubber. There's nothing that's going to rot or rust, or it's really a maintenance-free floor. You don't have to do anything to rumber. It's tongue and groove. So we really like those. If it's a wood floor, wood will rot when it stays wet and stays wet and stays wet and stays wet. It can't breathe. It can't get air to it. And one of the things that I've noticed about wood floors over the years, I've actually never changed a board in any trailer that we've ever built. And 1997 to 2025, that's a long time, 25 plus 26 years, something like that, maybe even more. But we would purchase the boards green. They're pressure treated, like what you would build a deck out of at your home. We put the boards in really tight. And then as that cures over time, you end up with a gap between each board. And that gap is what allows water, urine to escape. It allows air to move around the board. And with the wood floor, it's not quite as important to pull the mats out as often. You don't necessarily have to do it every single time that you use the trailer. But if you're hauling every week, I mean, certainly once a month, I'd pull those mats out, hose it, let it dry, pull it back in. With an aluminum floor, I think it's more important to do it, in my opinion, every time that you haul, because the horse urine, it's going to run in between the cracks of the stall mats on top of the floor, and then it'll just dry on top of the aluminum. So I think it's important to pull the mat out, hose the floor, let it dry, pull the mat back in. And that's certainly going to preserve the life of that floor throughout the life of the trailer. You'll get 20, 25 years of service out of it without any issue, versus the one that I traded for that was, I think, 7 years old, and I could already see the ground because they just had not done the maintenance to it.
Yeah, I know we've all seen those horrifying videos of the horses who literally fall through the floor of the trailer because of the corrosion. I mean, it seems like the most preventable way is just pulling out those mats and checking on it. But like, what, to someone who doesn't know, who's not staring at trailers and building trailers all the time, what is that corrosion?
If it's a wood floor, what gave wood floors a bad reputation would be tongue and groove, if you're familiar with that, where one board clamps into so there's no crack in between it, air can't get around it. A lot of manufacturers back in the day would use that tongue and groove floor because it goes together really quickly. And in manufacturing, speed and time equals less cost. So they could sell it, for less expensive. And the problem with that is there was nowhere for the moisture to escape. So the floor stayed wet and it would rot out. And of course, if it's a rotten board, I think most folks could identify that. Take a hammer or a screwdriver and just start poking around. And if you can punch a hole into it a little bit, you've got some rot that's going on. When it comes to an aluminum floor, it's actually going to oxidize and it'll rust, but it's white. So steel is going to produce the red, nasty looking stuff, and aluminum is going to produce a white oxidized type material. And you'll see it almost like a powdery substance that begins on top of the floor. And
so obviously that's a huge thing that a horse trailer owner should be thinking of and keeping an eye out on. What are some of the other, the most common and most preventable trailer-related accidents that you've seen? Whether that be like hitches not being secure, or like ramps falling down, like just things that should be super preventable.
Yeah, maybe this is a peeve of mine, but I strongly dislike straight load trailers with the ramp that has the top doors that fold around and latch. And I see clients, rolling up and down the road with their horses in there with this huge space over the back ramp. We just had a customer reach out to us that has one of our trailers, and it's a horse that she'd been hauling for, 10 plus years, a very long time. And for whatever reason, that guy freaked out that day and spooked and just went totally berserk. It's a fully enclosed trailer. It had the Galvalite walls. I wish we could put the pictures so folks could see those. But, the horse just really kicked and kicked and kicked. And thankfully, the trailer did its job. The horse was not injured. It held him in there just fine. But had that been an open top Dutch door, I've actually seen horses that broke loose from the trailer tie, fall down in the floor, flip around, and then try to jump through that back hole. So years ago, we had a client up in Maryland, and she called us and said, "Hey, it was a 2-horse straight, bumper pull, little open stock side trailer, single swing gate on the back, 2 latches on the back door, one big steel latch and then another steel pin that goes through it. A horse can't break it, horse can't get out of it." And somehow her horse managed to supposedly broke the trailer tie or the tie strap where she had him hooked into the tie loop, turned around and walked out the back door of the trailer and managed to finagle both of those latches open from the inside, yet the latches were on the outside, and barreled out, flipped, going down the road. The horse was skinned up, but thankfully was okay with just minor injuries, and they were able to stop and get him or her and put him back in. And the client was not really happy with us, but at the end of the day, what had happened is they loaded up early in the morning. It was dark, and her 8 or 9-year-old daughter is the one that latched the back door. We finally got to the bottom of it. And the point being, they just didn't latch the door. They just didn't latch the door. If they had latched it, the horse wouldn't have come out of there. So we do see mistakes like that happen sometimes. We had another person not too long ago with a bumper pull. She says, hey, my coupler is all messed up on my trailer. I was driving out of my driveway, and all of a sudden it popped off the ball and hit the dirt, and I started dragging it with the safety change. And I'm thinking, praise God that happened before you got on the highway. And I said, not to be blunt, but there's nothing wrong with your coupler nor your ball except you didn't latch it. That's the problem with it. I said, the way those things function, it's cast iron. There's no way that it'll break unless the trailer flips over. That's about the only time. So if you latch it properly, it will definitely stay on there. So just pay attention to latches and door catches, and particularly when you're hooking your trailer up, make sure that it's on properly.
My mom is a firefighter, and she runs a class on like large animal rescue and those sort of things. I've helped her out with a few PowerPoint presentations, and the pictures of the horses who go through the windows too, that always gets me.
Right.
The teensy tiny space, and they just somehow manage to get themselves through there, which I think also speaks to the importance of the bars, having bars and windows and that sort of thing.
They get halfway through the window and get stuck. That's the problem. And then you've really got a problem. Yeah. No, I'm not an advocate of the drop down windows with the bars, with the window and the bar down, horses going down the road with their head hanging out. I mean, it's just an accident waiting to happen. So definitely keep the bars up. They're there for a reason. And just because the window looks like it's a small hole doesn't mean that your horse is not going to try to jump through it one day. And we've had folks, again, that we've worked with that call us up and they say, I've been hauling this horse for 10 plus years. And for whatever reason, the horse spooked today. And they just can't believe it because it's never happened. And some folks will make the comment, well, yeah, I don't need that. I mean, I've been hauling horses for 20 plus years and I've never had a problem. And I say, well, you've never had a problem until you've had a problem, right? And then once that happens, you wish you had done something a little different. So yeah, it's just smart to make sure that we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's and everything that we do when it comes to horse trailering.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the horse's safety is obviously all of our top concern, and we're thinking about that. But what about like the people's safety? As you go in to unhook your horse. Can you talk a little bit about like some of those safety things to keep in mind as you enter the trailer with the horse?
Yeah. So when we started our conversation, I mentioned layout among manufacturers. And that's one of the things I go to these shows and we walk around, we look at trailers, and I see these beautifully built rigs that are got living quarters and the reverse load and different layouts. And I'm looking at the way that the horse has to load and where the handler has options to go. And I'm just shaking my head thinking, you got to be kidding me. You guys are charging $100,000 for this. Do people not care about their horses or themselves? The SafeTack, that swing out saddle compartment. I don't know if you've seen a video of that or not, but the way that came about, we used to build the rear tack the same way that everybody else does. The horse loads through the narrow door on one side. You put your saddles in the other side. We had a customer bought a trailer from us back in the day, 1998, I believe, and she had good loaders. She didn't have to walk in and lead the horse. If it's a slant load, like a 2-horse or a 3-horse, for example, you could walk in and lead in number 1. You could lead in number 2. But when you lead in number 3, where are you going to go? There's no space for you. So it puts you having to slither between the rear tack wall or the divider beside a 1,100 pound horse, and you're 20 or 30 pounds. It's just no match. And so her horses were good loaders, and it was an open side trailer, a stock side. She walked around to the side to tie her horse up, and when she stuck her arm through, the horse reared back and snapped her arm. It broke it. And she said, "Hey, you guys need to figure out how to get this bleep, 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 bleep tack compartment out of the way, because I broke my arm because I can't get in there and tie my horses up. It's in the way." And my dad's the one that thought about that, swing out saddle compartment. He's like, "Hey, we'll just put it on the back door, and when you open the door, the box comes out with it." And we've been building it that way ever since 1998. And it is it's one of the best designs out there, not because we offer it, but for the simple fact it has an extra partition. So first of all, the entire back of the trailer is open and available for loading and unloading. If it's a 3-horse slant, you can walk a guy in, turn him around, and walk him back out if that's what you want to do. They don't have to back out, number one. Number two, you have somewhere to go as the handler when you load number one, number two, number three. You're always safe. When you get ready to unload and you open the back doors, and you've seen this, a lot of trailers, most, either have some sort of chain or a bar or something holding the horse in, if anything. And with our design, we actually have another partition. So when you open the doors, the horse is there behind the partition. You can step up, get your guy calmed down and ready to unload. And when you're ready, you have that divider between you and your horse as protection. So when you open it up, if they're trying to dart out on you, you still got a lot of space to get out of the way. So it's just important to think about those things. And when you're looking at a trailer and having to walk in, and again, we hear, "Oh, my horse loads great." Well, that's fantastic that this one does, but the next one may not, right? And at some point, your horse may experience some trauma and not start to and stop loading great, and you have to work with him or her. So just pay attention to where are you going to go if a horse decides to get rattled and startled, and probably not necessarily planning to hurt you, but you just get hurt in the process.
Yeah, I mean, you just wrote a whole book on this. You obviously are a wealth of knowledge on this. What inspired you to write that book?
My oldest daughter, Brooke, she's our marketing manager, does a fantastic job. She's much smarter than I am. She and her husband, my son-in-law, he's right here beside me working today. He's in sales with us. But Brooke told me one day, she said, "Daddy, why don't you just write a book?" Everybody that comes to us, they're looking for a lot of the same information. And there's so much misinformation out there. And so we rolled our sleeves up, and all that info is on our website, but it's over 400 pages of content. And us humans were pretty lazy. I don't want to have to figure out 400 pages of content. Where am I supposed to look and scroll? And so we wrote this book and really tried to offer fact and data to support the claims that we're making. So it's not, and I think the folks that have read that, and we've had a tremendous amount of positive response from it, it's not an opinionated book. It's not what Brad thinks. Well, I think you should do this, or I think, horse folks are fantastic. There's a lot of opinions. If you ask 10 horse people, you're going to get 10 different opinions. And so we tried to base everything on fact. It's not a plug for us. In fact, we actually mention many other brands of trailers in the book that we give an endorsement to and a thumbs up. So it's just a heartfelt educational piece of material that I felt like that our industry needed, and to provide some good information to folks that are looking to purchase. And so, yeah, that's the point of the book, is to just try to put all that knowledge of what I have learned, what I've screwed up, what I've messed up, what we've had success with over the years, and package it all up into something, short, neat, easy to read and fairly quick. I call it the Cliff Notes for horse trailers.
Yeah, and you really have provided us with so much information today. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you? Online or on Facebook? Where should they go?
Yeah, online, doubledtrailers.com. Just do a search for us. It's a very interactive site. You can schedule calls, and we do lots of face-to-face interviews with folks, and we show. We really like doing that method versus just talking on the phone, because then you have the visual to go with it. But yeah, jump on our website. We can connect that way. Our Facebook page, Instagram page, all of that.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us and talking all about trailer safety.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Once again, we'd like to thank My New Horse for sponsoring this episode of The Ride.
Thank you guys for tuning into the Ride podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and please be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow Horse and Rider Magazine on social media and find us at horseandrider.com to see all the cool things that we're up to. And if you have any comments or questions, please be sure to hit us up at horseandrider@equinenetwork.com. We want to hear from you guys. And if you like what you're listening to, please be sure to leave us a review on iTunes.